Last week I showed you that video on turning an antique lantern, and I had no idea it was going to be as popular, so I thought I'd take a moment and do some follow-up and deal with a few comments that people have and show you some production tricks. Some of y'all took me to task for not having a better overhead camera view, so I want to show you a couple of things in this video. And one of the things I want to talk about is metal reactive paint, so I'll have some tips on that, and a number of other tips that I've learned, because I've made a bunch more of these things since that first one I did in that video. In my first video, I showed you how you could drill this on a drill press table, holding it in the middle after you measure all four sides, and that will work. But what I found is you're not going to do one. These are addictive. They're like potato chips. You can't eat just one. So what I find it much more effective is carefully mark down 40 millimeter, about 1.5 inches, and then measure exactly in the middle, and then set you up your stop block, and then you don't have to mark any down the sides anymore. You just go down here like this. I would also drill a bit more than a 1/2 inch. Then all you gotta do is just spin it around. One viewer asked what I thought about the idea of drilling all the way through instead of from all four sides, and it might work for you. I'd say try it and see what you think. But my concern was, especially the way I mill lumber on a bandsaw, if the surface is a little bit uneven on one side, you'd be fine on this side, but coming through here is going to increase an error. You turn it over to the other one, and it's going to increase the error a second time. That would be my concern. I've just gotten in the habit of turning my tenon on this side because I feel like I've normally got a smaller area. If I do a smaller tenon, it's just safer to do it this way. So when I chuck it, put the short end toward the headstock, the longer end that's going to have the tenon on the tailstock. Doing a bunch of these in a certain size reminds me a little bit about the process of making a chessman. If you cut your blanks pretty close to mill stock, exactly 2 inches square, you don't have to ever worry about calipering it. All you got to do is get it perfectly round, and then you're good to go. Now I like to drill the hole 2.5 inches, more or less. A little bit's not going to make any difference, but I want the hole to go up underneath the roof line. Now here's what I discovered. With my favorite Jacobs chuck, I couldn't get it deep enough to reach 2.5 inches without having to adjust drill it, and then take this loose, take the drill bit out, pull it back a little bit. Sometimes the drill bit wasn't necessarily sharp, and it would start sliding. So turns out this drill chuck didn't work very well for me. But I did happen to have this Golden Goose, which a much smaller front on it, and it would actually get down in the hole without any problem, because I could go, actually, this is less than 1 3/8 inch. Let's clear some chips before we do it again. And now you can see with the ghost image, I want that to go up pretty much all the way up in there, past that line. Something like that. You can see this has gone up in the hole. Last week I showed you making a cardboard storyboard and said, well, if you're going to turn a lot of these, you might want to go ahead and make a nice one. Let me tell you, you're going to make a lot of them, so go ahead and start with one. I misplaced that piece of paper, so I immediately turned around and make some more, couldn't find it, so I took the time to make a storyboard. Just a couple little tricks on this storyboard. 2 inches by 4.5 inches, size of the blank, so I can take this over to my wood pile, make sure I've got a blank at least, more than 2 inches that I can trim down and get it squared up to 2 inches. Where I got the center of the hole, I went ahead and did a little cut mark on the bandsaw to make it easy to mark. I did a little cut mark in the middle to get it exactly in the middle, to make it a little easier maybe to mark. The first thing I'm going to do, and some of y'all took me to task for not having a good overhead view, and rightfully so. It's a lot more trouble for me to set up my full camera setup. I got to set up my laptop, and I've got to fiddle with the cameras, and sometimes I take a shortcut. I start with this bottom part being less than, maybe it's close to 1/4 inch. It's certainly more than 1/8 inch. Then I do another one, and nothing magic about exactly where, but leave a little bit of space between here and here. And then I think making that spacing even on both sides, this is going to be the roof line, makes it look a little better. Now, by marking this, That's going to be one. I need to then make a smaller bead right here, and this is wider than 8 millimeters, so my beading and parting tool makes it really easy to come down and take that down. And I come down at least 1/8 of an inch, come up onto this one, and then beading and parting tool is a little bit like a skew, but a little easier to use, but it works real well for some of these things without bothering to pick up another tool. And then I'm going to come right next to this one. Again, this is about 1/8 of an inch wide. This time I'm going to come down a little bit deeper, but not much, until I evaluate the wall thickness, because I don't want to get those walls too thin, but I like this side to be lower than this side. So I go down a little bit further. And then there's the roof line. And then I trim this up, round it over. And I take this down just a little bit, because I want it to be a little bit lower than this. And once you do a few of these, you can really get into a production mode, and you'll find yourself, you know, finding these little time-saving hacks like I'm showing you. I texture here, and I texture the roof. I'm using metal reactive paint on these lanterns. The one I'm using is several years old, and the company's out of business, but there's other metal reactive paint available. But basically, you're going to paint a solution on the piece, and there's different types. You have copper, you have bronze, you have brass, you have iron that you're going to rust. After you put it on there wet, you're going to come back, and if it's still dry, hit it with another coat. And while it's still wet, you're going to spray this stuff on it, patina, and then eventually it will change colors. And I'll show you a close-up of these in just a moment. Well, I lost some of the footage, so let me talk you through it. I'm not trying to show you detailed how to use metal reactive paint, because I'm not the best person to show you. I just want to introduce you to the concept. You can probably find better videos on using metal reactive paint. I just want to tell you a little bit about my technique. What I found was I did a little texturing on the top and here, and the texturing is good, but some of it gets masked by this reactive paint, and that's okay. I found that I don't need to sand past about 150, because you're getting this weathered texture kind of look from the metal reactive paint. When you put the paint on there, you spray this patina spray on it, and then while it's still wet, and then it starts doing its magic. You've got different colors. You've got copper, you have iron with rust, you have brass, you have bronze. So there's different colors you can get. I kind of like the brass. I think of the best look of all of them. This one is brass, but I waited till it dried too much before I put the reactive paint on it. I need to hit the top a little bit more, because it's not showing. There we go. Put a little mist on the top so it'll weather as well. The bail I made out of copper on this one, so you can just put your branch through there. For this one, I thought I would use a large screw eye. A small one would make it look like an ornament. A large one looks like it's maybe part of the lamp. Not sure which one I like best. This one's going to have a small cord on it. This one will not. But anyhow, lots of fun to play with. I find that after I drill the holes, side holes in the blank, it takes me no more than about 30 minutes to turn this, and then you get to play with colors if you like playing with colors. Another decorating technique that I think would work well, although I haven't used it yet, is use a very watered down acrylic in the appropriate color, and it could be a light green, it could be brass, maybe even silver, and then possibly use a slightly contrasting color after that's dry to kind of dry brush it a little bit. I haven't used that technique a lot, but where you're just hitting it with highlights, maybe with even a couple of different colors, you could probably come close to mimicking this metal reactive paint. You may already have the acrylic paint on hand. You guys know how much I love to teach, or I wouldn't be making these videos. So I do teach lessons in my shop. If you live in the Atlanta area, you got relatives in the Atlanta area, or you're just traveling through, check it out. Details on my webpage. And here's a close-up of the different ones. This is copper. This is iron with a rust effect. This is brass. This is brass, but I sprayed a lot more of the patina on it, and it really went green, maybe more so than I wanted, but it's a different look. After evaluating the bales, copper versus the big screw eye, I believe I like the copper bale drilled through the side hole best. Now I have purchased these little, since I really got into these things, I purchased some of these little tea lights with the light timer on them, and they're very cool. You turn them on, they'll stay on for 6 hours, and then they will cycle off. I got the yellow color because I thought it mimicked a candle a little bit better. The first one I did is with a non-timer one I had that is white, and I think I like the warmer look better, but you know, you've got a choice. So unlike the metal reactive paint, one of the manufacturers now, Modern Masters, I'll have a link to as an Amazon affiliate if you're interested in checking that out. But they don't have a kit that has multiple different styles like I showed on my on the original kit that I got from a different company that had brass and bronze and iron and rust and so on. So, but they do have different colors, but they don't put it all together in a kit, so it can get kind of expensive. You get all of them, but I'll have a link to one. Again, dyed, I think, makes for an interesting look, kind of colorful on an ornament. The other technique, okay. So another technique is to use some type of metallic gilding paste. This one is a patina green, and I've got a gilding gold, and I've got a gilding copper, so those might be worth checking out. It's a low entry cost to come up with some type of metallic type of look. The other technique is to use acrylics, use the appropriate background color, whether it's brass or silver or copper colored, and then use a dry brush technique for the patina, doing it very, very lightly. I won't go into details on that, but if you're familiar with the dry brushing technique, that's another trick to try. For the bale, I suggested either 14 gauge or 12 gauge. 12 gauge is a terrible idea. It's just too heavy. It's just harder to work with. Try to use 14 gauge. The other thing, I dyed a couple of these. Doesn't look like a metal lantern, but it's pretty colorful for Christmas. So for this, rather than put a bale, go the trouble of putting a bale, I thought it would just be faster and easier just to use some of this 1/16 inch cord, like I do for a lot of my other ornaments, and just do a simple overhand knot. Because it doesn't matter whether it looks like a real lantern or not. The trick is, does it look like a nice Christmas tree ornament? I think that's the key. Texturing does add a lot to this little band in the roof, though. Longtime viewer David Walser suggests getting lights that change colors. I'll have a link underneath the description. And I think it's a great idea. They change colors periodically, 7 different colors. The downside, in my view, I find it very difficult or expensive to get ones with a timer, and for me the timer is a more important function. Tip from Bert Delisle. Remember, Bert's the one that gave me the idea for the candle ornament. He suggested put a 1-inch, and he's done this, put a 1-inch mirror in the bottom, and it adds additional reflective capacity. I suppose if you were really on the cheap or want to try it, you could also cut out a piece of aluminum foil and stick it back there. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, make it easier for other folks to find. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes to the previous video if you missed that, or to some of my Amazon affiliate links on the easiest place you can find some of these lights that I talked about. And y'all remember, y'all stay safe. Come on back, you hear?